How you feeling? Yeah? Good. I didn't look.
Hey guys.
TrekLive, hello. Oh.
Welcome
Nice.
to episode 25 of TrekLive. I couldn't wait to start, so
We started,
we started.
and we come in peace,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Right.
Yes.
So much to talk about here.
Just a little bit.
Obviously, yeah. Obviously, today is Discovery, post-Discovery Day. Yesterday was Discovery Day, but for us, today is Discovery Reaction Day, I guess. So, are you sure we're live? Let me see something here. Yes, we are.
Okay.
Um,
Hopefully the audio's good and everything.
yeah, if anybody's in here and they hear us,
Yep.
let us know. But yeah, I was lucky. I took off work today. Obviously, I watched it last night for the first time, and I took off work because I knew I was going to be useless at work. I wasn't going to get anything done, and I wanted to. I knew I was going to want to rewatch this, and I wanted to do it as soon as possible. Um, so yeah, I don't even know what to say, honestly. There's so much. So
Yeah.
where do you want to start? We haven't really talked about how we're gonna
And
do this today.
yeah,
We're
and
just gonna
let's
go raw.
yeah, let's just preface this, guys. Bill and I have not talked. Like
No,
this is the first time like we've exchanged like a
a few
few words,
texts.
but it wasn't like
Yeah.
it wasn't in depth or anything. So this is this. If there's people in chat, I'm sorry, but it might like go deep between us, and then we'll try to get you
Hmm.
guys into it. We're just super excited, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, I guess I'll just start
Yeah.
and we'll see where it goes.
Absolutely.
So I sat down to watch it. I was super excited, but I think where my excitement was coming from was that Trek was back on TV. I don't know if you
Yeah.
felt that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah.
I definitely felt that. The first episode, it felt like I blinked and it was over.
Yeah.
It was really fast paced, a lot going on. I guess you could say
Hmm.
that for both. Um,
Hmm.
but I guess what are your overall thoughts, if you can do overall thoughts on it?
I've been thinking about how to do this all day.
Yeah.
Last night, my initial thoughts were very positive. Um, I enjoyed it. I agree with you. I couldn't believe I kept looking at the clock, like wondering, like, is this really going by this fast? Like, please slow down,
Yeah.
because it was really fast paced. Uh, but I think last night was very overwhelming in a lot of ways because of all the excitement, and all the expectation, and yeah, it was a lot to take in. So I was very positive, but I wasn't sure like how to react to it. initially, like how to put it into words, like what exactly it all meant. I was stunned by the production values. I love the characters. Um, but I knew I needed to like sleep on it, like let it sit for a minute. Don't try to like go back and watch it right away. Like I wanted to sleep on it, relax, just let it breathe for a little bit. So I woke up this morning and I rewatched it, and it was a totally different experience. Like it was just as equally great. Like it was great, but because I kind of knew it was coming, and I didn't have all these expectations in my head, and I was watching it by myself. Last night I watched it with my parents. My best friend was in the room, who's not a big Trek fan, so I was like as worried, not worried, but I was like I was as focused on the show as I was like their reactions. I was kind of like keeping an eye on them, seeing how it was working on them. So like the experience of just kind of sitting myself watching it today
Mm-hmm.
was like a brand new experience, and yeah, it's I think it's awesome. There are things that it's new and it's going to take some getting used to, um, but overwhelmingly positive on the character end of things. I love the characters. I love the cast. The characters that we've met so far, at least, which is kind of the main point that I'm going to make here, which is a known thing if you've been following it all, but it's something to definitely keep in mind. That this is basically a prologue. To the series. This is like a true intro. Like we haven't seen the Discovery yet. We
Yeah.
haven't seen like half of the main cast yet. So this is really an establishing uh, vehicle for Michael Burnham and for the setting of the show, like what's happening. I don't think we really know what like the driving force of the series itself is yet. I think this was really a prologue, um,
And I
but
had
that worked for me.
Yeah, I had to keep reminding myself that like, okay, this is just a prologue. This isn't like
Yeah,
I was like, where are the other people? Like, where's the
yeah,
discovery? But I just had to, um, keep reminding myself that I definitely felt the same way. I was just so overwhelmed. I'm still kind of overwhelmed.
hmm
And for me, like, I'm a really even-keeled guy, so it's hard for me to just buy in and just jump in so fast. And
yeah.
that's can be said when I watched the other shows too. It took a few
Mhm.
episodes to be fully, invested and bought in. So, um, I definitely like. I'm not gonna like. On Twitter, it was just crazy. Like people were like, "Oh, I'm bought
Yeah.
in, love this, love that." It just exploded, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna remain calm,
hmm
and not pour
It's
my
a workout.
brain out, and so I'm just trying to, remain chill, I guess. But, um,
Absolutely. That's really where I was last night, and I'm more bought in now after seeing it twice, and to be honest, like 2.5 times. Before we started this, I had it on, and I was kind of not like super attentively watching it, but kind of had it on the background, listening to it, and uh, getting the vibes again. And I'm starting to feel it,
yeah.
pretty strongly. Uh, but let me ask you this: like, what did you think of like the opening, like to start with like the Klingon speech, kind of like did that draw you in right away? Like, was that surprising to you?
That drew me in right away because
Me too.
I'll say right away, Klingons are my favorite alien species. So when there was the Klingons at first, like we could have a whole show on the Klingons. I could go off on the
I know.
Klingons in
hmm
Discovery. But I definitely bought it. I was like, oh man, and then it was like, and then I could breathe again, and then it was got into on the desert planet and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. The Klingons are such a major kind of talking point that you kind of have to hit on with this. And we talked a lot leading up to this. We had a lot of shows. We had like at least 2 or 3 episodes of Trek Live that were kind of focused on where Discovery was in the lead up, like what our opinion of where it was going in our minds was,
hmm
like yeah, our anticipation of it, our expectations. And we talked a lot about the Klingons, and the look of the Klingons, what to expect. And I think we've both been pretty positive overall. Like we both were pretty open to the new look and what they were going to do with it. And I don't know about you, but one of my first takeaways was that I buy them. I they look different. Um, they but I think because they speak the native guttural Klingon, they act Klingon to me. Like they're the way they present themselves, the way the actors are portraying the characters. I believe them as Klingons. I don't even really think about it. Even last night, first time, I very quickly like dispensed with, oh, they don't have hair, their noses look a little different, and just kind of bought them as different looking Klingons. And I can reason it in my head as, you're not there yet on your rewatch, but in the fourth season of Enterprise, they have this big thing about the trying to explain the foreheads and different
Yeah.
appearance of the Klingons. Who knows what that virus did, how much havoc it wreaked on the Klingon genome,
Yeah.
and what the ramifications of all that were. And so I can just buy it. To me, it's not worth getting hung up about. They
What's
were, to me, unmistakably Klingon.
Yeah, what sold them for me is when they had them like on like the view screen, the holograms, and the other
Hmm.
Klingons of the other 23 houses or 24 houses that showed up,
Hmm.
they all looked different.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
was like, that's just how it is. The Klingon doesn't have to all look the same. They look
exactly.
different. So
Yeah,
that's what sold me, and that's what got me really excited because I'm curious to be like, okay, like how,
who are these guys?
yeah, who are these
What are
different
their
houses and how
points
do
of
they,
view? Yeah,
yeah.
and I think they did a really good job selling that. And it was kind of, I think, yeah, it was in the second episode, Battle of the Binary Stars. It was when Takuvma is talking to the different houses and trying to sell his thing. The House of Cole, who you kind of briefly see as a hologram, um, is not buying it. And I love that they're going to do that. That it's not going to be like a uniform
Hmm.
Klingon thing. All the Klingons are badass, and they all hate the Federation, and they all kind of want the same thing, and they're just want to go fight. Like there's going to be more texture to it. There's going to be um, more interesting dynamics to it. They're not all going to agree. They're coming from different points of view. They don't all like each other. Like that is believable to me, and the Klingons need that. It's going to make them more interesting, and I think I'm willing to see where this goes, and I'm confident that it's going to go to a place that's going to tell us a little bit about why the Klingons are what they are. In the stuff that we've seen a million times.
Yeah.
Uh, I nothing from what I saw last night, and anything from what I've seen leading up to last night, tells me that these people making this show don't kind of know and respect Star Trek history. So I think they have a plan. I think they know where this is going,
Hmm.
um, and I think by the end of it, it's all kind of makes sense. We might not get like a airtight exact explanation for why these Klingons don't have hair, why they look a certain way. I don't really need that.
I don't
If
need it
they,
either. Yeah.
I really don't. I'm content to just kind of assume in my head that this event in Affliction and Divergence from Enterprise season 4 is why they look the way they look. Their genome is fighting to come back to like the true Klingon stuff that you saw in Enterprise and that you see again in the 24th century, and
Yeah.
there's all kinds of wacky stuff going on. I mean, you can come up with any explanation you want, or you can just write it off as it's 2017. This is a new production team, and they're sprucing it up a little bit, just like they spruced it up in 1979 for the motion picture. Um, whatever you want to do in your head, I think
Hmm.
will work for you if you
Yeah.
can just accept that they're Klingons and the way the actors present them, the language, hearing the language. The Klingon language is so distinctive. If you watch those movies that it's really big in, the Undiscovered Country and the Search for Spock, and then anything else that comes after it in the new shows, Klingon when you hear it. If you're a fan and you know it. So hearing them speak it like in depth, like in long
Yeah.
speeches and long series of dialogue, like it just, I was totally immersed by the Klingon stuff. And that's one of the things I was going to ask you. And I can tell that, it sounds like you're very much on the positive end of things with the Klingons. And I've seen a very mixed reaction um, and I'm going to talk about, I want to talk about like what kind of reactions out there
Yeah.
that I've seen so far. But even the people who have liked it, who are on board, seem to be kind of mixed on like, were they totally into the Klingon stuff, or maybe they thought the Klingon stuff kind of dragged a little bit. And for me, the Klingon stuff was maybe the highlight of the episodes to me. Like when the Klingons were on screen, I thought that's when it was like totally working and like completely,
Yeah.
coming to life. I loved all of it. The more I'm watching it, the more I love all of it. But the Klingons totally worked for me. And I'm assuming you feel the same way.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Like I love that I hope, and they kind of touch on it, in the first two episodes, but they're exploring kind of the inner workings of the Klingon Empire. Like they're not
Yeah.
all the houses aren't all unified, and
Yes.
I love that to explore that inner workings, just like in Enterprise. Like I'm trying to link this. because I'm going through Enterprise right now again,
Yeah.
and I like, especially with the Zindi, I like how they kind of interact and
Hmm.
stuff like that and try to work things out. I hope that something like that happens in Discovery where they're like you said, not everyone's gonna agree, no one's not gonna buy into this. So I'm really
Right.
excited for that. So
Me too.
yeah.
Me too. Rob is in here as
Yeah. Hey
usual.
Rob.
Hi, Rob. And he's asking us what we thought of the Saru Burnham relationship dynamic. He's saying Spock McCoy-esque.
Too soon for
What did
me.
you? What's that?
Too soon.
Too soon.
Like
Too
too
soon to
soon.
say.
Like too soon. Like I feel like they're trying to get that banter back and forth,
Hmm.
and I feel like it's too soon.
Yeah.
I
I think we haven't seen enough
I
to.
definitely enjoy um the banter, but I
Mhm.
don't mind it, but I think it's too early.
Yeah, I think what they're trying to convey is, they make kind of a point to say that this crew has been together and Burnham has kind of been on the ship for 7 years, and they establish in the flashback that Saru was there 7 years ago when she got on the ship. So I think one of the things they're really trying to push is that this is like a crew that's been together for 7 years, and I don't think 7 years is kind of a mistake, like an accident. I think they're doing 7 years because that's how long they're kind of saying this is like the end of a show that you could have seen. Um, this crew has been together for as long as the crew in TNG and DS9 and Voyager were together.
Hmm.
So they're trying to sell that this is like a well-oiled machine. These people have worked together and know each other and they're friends. And so, yeah, I get that. Like
It's
it
hard
does
for me
come
to
like
see
right
that
at.
even
Mhm.
even right now, but I think over time, like even I can't fault that for the writing or anything. It's just like I feel like everybody has to settle down into their character, into
Yeah,
their writing, and into the show, I guess. So
yeah. That's one of the things that I think was kind of overwhelming to me last night when I was watching it. Like I loved I liked a lot of the crew interaction that was going on. But a lot of it's so fast. Like the editing and the direction plays it really quick. Like it's fast. Um, the dialogue just comes out real quick, and it's there's not a lot of breathing room. Um, so the first time my head was kind of spinning trying to like process everything, and the second time, second and a half time, it's kind of I'm catching a little more. Like the dialogue feels a little more natural, and
hmm
uh, I'm I'm hearing it better. Like it's landing a little more than maybe it was the first time around for me.
yeah,
Uh,
because like when like Burnham like went with the like attack. Went with the Vulcan neck pinch, it was like fast, and I was like, "Oh man, like,
yeah,
is she just doing this? Like, I don't know." But then I realized, like, oh, she's been with this crew for 7 years. Like, I don't know.
right.
It's just hard to make that distinction,
Leap.
I guess,
Yeah,
because right
yeah,
now, when I first saw it, it was so jarring. Like, it was just,
hmm
I don't know, really hard.
yeah. It was, and like I could just my parents are certainly very attuned to Trek. Like they've seen Trek. My dad's a huge fan. My mom's very conscious of it from
Yeah,
living with us.
yeah,
Uh, but and even my buddy is kind of passively aware of it. He's seen bits here and there, but when that happens, there was like an audible gasp. Like people were like, "Whoa!" Like that really surprised everybody that I was watching it with.
yeah,
And I get the impression from seeing some stuff online that people viewed that as like the big moment. Obviously, like that was the big like whoa kind of moment
yeah.
in these two episodes that people didn't see coming. Um, so are you saying that it did it work for you? Like, did that moment, like, did you buy her decision?
It took me a while, but
Hmm.
I definitely buy her decision, especially with her past.
Hmm.
Some of her actions kind of before that, I don't buy as much.
Hmm.
But the thing that I love about this is that we're not following a character who is like a goody two shoes.
Yeah.
Like this story is not going to be about, um, the good and versus evil. It's
Hmm.
exploring a lot of um, different alleyways that Trek kind of hasn't gone or
Yeah.
gone for a 15 episode season. So
Yeah.
that's what gets me excited too. Especially also the Klingon stuff, but also seeing
Sure.
kind of the different side of Starfleet,
Hmm.
just crewmen and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was pretty taken by the whole Burnham thing, and I think it was refreshing to see a character who's kind of grappling with what's the right thing to do, and
Yeah.
not necessarily making good choices.
Yeah.
And her past and her history and her assumptions are all kind of playing into these choices she's making, and
Hmm.
I kind of bought her her whole dilemma. She's clearly like a deep feeling human being, but this whole logic upbringing that she's had, being raised on Vulcan, I see that playing out on screen when I
Hmm.
watch her. Her. I don't necessarily agree with what she wanted to do. I don't know that that would have ended well uh, in that circumstance, but I see where she's coming from. Like I can see the logical path to get to where she was trying to go.
Hmm.
Um, and I kind of appreciated that. I bought that it was complicated, that it wasn't just a character making a dumb a dumb decision just to make a dumb decision to set off a chain of events. Like I
Yeah.
believe why she's thinking the way she's thinking. Um, and I agree with everything you just said. It's pretty obvious that this is not going to be a show that's going to explore the pitch perfect, human beings that don't make mistakes and don't have moral ambiguity. Like TNG is kind of, I think, the poster child for Star Trek in that way. Characters who are, moral compasses. They're always going the right way.
Yeah.
They don't make, dicey decisions very often. Worf does occasionally, but he's got, when he does it, Picard's like right there to like kind of slap him back into place.
Yeah.
And it's not a show that really goes that way. And I think this show is going to kind of push the opposite. It's going to show that these are human beings who are aiming for a certain place and think they're trying to get to that place of, where you see them going, where you see them in TNG and in the
Yeah.
21st century, but they're not there yet. It's a
Yeah.
work in progress, and I appreciate that. And I think Enterprise tried to do that. I think Enterprise set out to do that, to show human beings who are getting to that point but aren't there yet. But this is a show, because of modern sensibilities and serialized storytelling, the way that they're going to do it, that's equipped to actually do it
Yeah.
in a way that Enterprise kind of wasn't. So I think it's going to be really good. And I think there's a lot that we don't know yet about the show as a whole. I don't think we know anything about what the story of the season really is. Uh, Beyond, like, once they get to the Discovery and what's going to happen from there. Like I have no idea. I truly have no idea where it's going,
Hmm.
and I kind of appreciate that. We spent all this time like waiting for last night to see like what's this show about, and we got 2 hours of it. And we still don't really know like what the show is. I think we know what it visually is, like what it's going to look like, what production values are going to be, and
Hmm.
um, but we haven't even met half the cast yet, and we haven't seen the setting where the show is going to take place proper. So it's quite a thing. It's different, and I think that's why you see some. Well, I was going to say some mixed reaction, but to be honest with you, from what I've seen, I'm surprised at how positive it is. I think it's more positive than I expected, at least on Twitter. I'm not diving into the cesspool that is Facebook to read comments and to see what people are saying, and I haven't like dived into the Reddit pages and such. But the reaction I've seen on Twitter and on some message boards that I go to has been pretty on the positive side, and I wasn't sure that was going to happen. I thought it was going to be more split down the middle, or maybe sliding a little towards the negative. But I didn't see a whole lot of people that were excited that were disappointed, if that makes sense. But I did see a few people who went into it pessimistically and kind of ate their words a little bit, and thought that they were surprised in a pleasant way
Yeah.
by the show, and are more bought in than they were expecting to be. So that's encouraging to me.
Yeah, and I
That there's
think
some,
I think it's gonna be so. It's just already feels so different, but
yeah,
also
okay,
at the same time, there's it feels like Trek.
it does.
So
I think it does.
that's what I'm like super excited about for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. So you were watching it and you felt like you were watching Star Trek.
Yep.
You did.
Yeah.
I did too. I did too. And I've seen some people saying, some of the negative people who fall on the negative side, just because there are, Star Trek sound effects in the background, and they call things a certain thing that it doesn't necessarily make it Star Trek, and that's fair enough. But
Yeah.
I got the Star Trek vibe from it. I think Captain Georgiou and even Michael Burnham, what Michael Burnham thought she wanted to do, what Michael Burnham thought she was trying to do, were very Star Trek things, and the ideals of Star Trek were there for me. What Star Trek aims to do, I think we're there.
Yeah.
So I never felt like I was watching science fiction with Star Trek kind of slapped on it. I felt Trek pretty right away.
Yeah.
Combination of the Klingon stuff and the stuff on the Shenzhou.
Yeah, I think that the reason why the pacing just felt so fast for me, I guess, was that especially when we were on like the kind of the Shinzo and the Federation side, it was like faster paced than the Klingon side of stuff. So when we were with the Klingons, there was lots of talking heads, and stuff like that. But then we would cut back to kind of the Federation side, and it's just fast to me. So that might have been amped up because of the Klingon stuff was so much slower pace, I guess. Not saying slowing pace is bad or fast pace is bad. I'm just kind of, trying to
calling it what it is.
Yeah. Yep.
It's true. No, I agree with you. I felt like the stuff on the Shenzhou was really briskly paced, and it was the way it was edited. Like I said, it was the way it was directed. Scenes were shifting really quickly. They were on the bridge, and then they were going to the ready room and having a conference, and then they were back to the bridge. Like it was really quick.
Yeah.
And I felt that there was like an urgency to it, and it was differently paced than most Trek that we've seen. And the Klingon stuff definitely does pump the brakes a little bit, because you're right, it is a lot of talking heads. It's a lot of exposition. It's a lot of explaining, why these Klingons are doing what they're doing, where they're coming from, what they want. But yeah, I definitely felt the pacing, and I still do when I watch it again. It's crazy how fast it moves. And I don't know, I don't know what the right answer for that is. Like you kind of just said, is fast pacing bad or good? Like I don't know. As long as it's effective and I'm enjoying it, I guess that's all that kind of matters. But I guess I'm used to Star Trek kind of being a little more methodically paced. The newer movies are certainly kind of like this, and I think that's where some of the people who tag it as, oh, it's like Kelvin stuff, in a sense it is. It's fast paced. It's big production.
But that's today's television, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Today's television is a lot faster paced than definitely back
90s.
in the day.
Yeah. Stuff that we got back then. So and the stuff in the 90s, even, like, I think TNG and Deep Space Nine and Voyager and Enterprise have a different style of pacing than TOS did. TOS is a very differently paced show and very differently stylized, and this is just the next step forward. I think the way to look at it is, you have TOS, you have the Rick Berman TNG to Enterprise era, and then you have this is the next step, and it's going to be as much of a leap forward and a different stylistic look at Star Trek in the same way that TNG was a departure from what came before. And I think it needs to do that. I haven't asked you about the Orville yet. Have you watched
cutting
any of that?
Cutting out a little bit. I have not watched any of the Orville yet. I kind of went a deep dive, and we can talk about this maybe in a later show, but I finished season 3 of Enterprise. So cool. I did a big push last week to finish it before Discovery happened. So I wasn't able to get to any of the Orville.
Well, without spoiling anything about the Orville, the Orville is very much a throwback to 90s Trek. And I'm on the positive side of the Orville. I'll just tell you that right now. I like the Orville so far. But the Orville looks like, I think, what Trek would look like if it wanted to recapture that feeling of TNG, Voyager, that style of storytelling on television. And I'm not convinced that would have been the right way to go. I think this was the right way to go for Star Trek, to push it forward and do something different and take advantage of what TV is today and adapt Trek to today's television. I think that's the best bet for it to sustain itself and to have an identity in today's TV landscape. And I think it's going to do that. I think this is a good thing for Star Trek. But there's certainly challenges with, I was just talking to somebody about this earlier today. I struggle with how new people are going to find their way into this show with the CBS All Access stuff. I don't. That's certainly the
Here
that's
it comes,
certainly
everybody.
the biggest challenge. I'm certainly you're kind of saying that. Like, I am a CBS All Access apologist. I'm on board. I'm still waiting for that check from CBS for all the salesmanship I'm doing. But the worry for me isn't so much like the format itself and like that it's behind a paywall. Like, whatever. We can have a debate about that. But the worry for me is like I worry about how the new 16-year-old kid who's like equipped to love Star Trek is going to find their way to this show. And I think the answer is they have to be patient with it. It has to stick. And I think they need to put it on Netflix when the season's over and put the Netflix logo on it because Netflix has something to do with it and they help produce it, and allow people to find it that way. And, maybe people fall in love with it by binging it on Netflix over the summer when the season's over. And maybe some of those people, subscribe to CBS All Access for season 2. I think if they play their cards right and they're patient with allowing that to happen, it can happen. But my biggest concern is not for the show itself. It's for how, people who don't know that they're going to love it yet are going to find their way to it. I don't know how that's quite going to happen, at least in the United States. Internationally because it's on Netflix everywhere else. And it's on, I believe, I don't quite understand how the Canadian thing works. I think it's on like a broadcast TV channel. So for them and for everybody else, it's a little easier for people to stumble their way into the show. But for folks in the United States, I think it's a tall order to get many people to kind of discover it, per se. Naturally, at least. So,
yeah.
Did CBS All Access work for you? Like,
it worked fine for me. The app, I have it on my phone, and then I have this thing called the Chromecast that I can cast something onto my TV, and that's what the CBS All Access was equipped with Chromecast. Not as polished as Netflix and Hulu, but I mean, it's brand new. I definitely gave it I didn't get any weird playback or anything like that. Everything worked. Everything was right as rain, so I had no complaints about CBS All Access. And I think there is a trial. So definitely people in the States, if you want to get your free trial, definitely get that. But yeah, I have no problem paying $10 a month to kind of watch and experience and help support Star Trek. So as long as it works.
As long as it works, exactly. Yeah. Thank you for lifting those weights for me.
Yeah.
For a change.
Yeah.
Like, you got to sell it once, but you did a good job.
Yeah.
Let me know if CBS sends you a check.
Yeah.
But I had the same experience. We watched it through a Fire TV. It's on that. CBS All Access is available through Fire TV. And we have the ads-free version. We paid $9.99 too, and it was pretty good. It was pretty crystal clear. There's a little like you said, it's not quite as crisp as like a Netflix stream, but it was pretty good. It looked good, and I was worried about buffering and some spazzing out and
like server issues and
I was definitely nervous about that.
Yeah, because I bet there was a bunch of traffic that night on their servers, but everything was fine. And I am excited though to see like when they put it out on Blu-ray and you could just have it really crystal clear, and that'd be nice.
It would, yeah. So Rob is asking, Jordan's in here too. Hi, Jordan. He's asking if he's right in thinking that it looked like Takuvma invented the cloaking technology that you see in the episode. That was the impression that I kind of just got on the second time around. And Jordan is thinking maybe that he made a deal with the Romulans to gain access to cloaking technology. That's certainly possible too. That's always been kind of assumed, I think, in like non-canon Star Trek stuff out there, that the Klingons made a deal with the devil and had a brief alliance with the Romulans, and that's why there's so much bad blood, and that's where they got the cloaking technology and all that stuff. So it's certainly a reasonable supposition that that's what happened, and that
Yeah.
that might be something the show explores. Um, I did hear. I watched After Trek. I don't know if you watched that, Dan.
Yeah, I watched a
Uh,
little bit, and didn't they say that it was like a no-go for the Romulans
yeah,
in the writers' room?
that's exactly. Yeah, the Romulans is a dirty word in the writers' room
Yeah.
because it's pretty well established that the Enterprise makes kind of first contact with the Romulans in a face-to-face manner, at least in Balance of Terror. They're in Enterprise certainly, but never meet face-to-face. So I think I think we're not going to see much as far as like the Discovery coming into contact with the Romulans. But who knows? Maybe behind the scenes in some of these Klingon stories that we're going to see, there might be something to that.
Hmm.
And it could be in a line of dialogue. The one thing that I think we learned yesterday with this is that this is a show that's not afraid to be like really steeped in Star Trek lore. Uh, they're not afraid to, in their exposition stuff, dialogue stuff, to have like a lot of Star Trek stuff going on.
Hmm.
All the references to Kahless and Stovokor and the
Oh
Klingon stuff.
yeah.
Like that was giving me chills because I didn't know that they were going to go that deep into Trek history.
Yeah.
So I think seeing that gives me a lot of confidence that maybe they do something like that, Jordan. Maybe in a line of dialogue, it's referred to, and that kind of covers it. And I don't think they're afraid to do that. I think yesterday certainly showed us that.
Yeah.
So, trying to think, what did you think of the opening titles?
Loved it. It just feels so handcrafted.
Yeah.
That's what it just feels so. I don't know. I just love it, and I think it's good. I think it's hard to like you can't. I don't think the title sequence can represent the show. Like I don't know. It can and it can't. But we don't know enough
To
to
know what
kind
the
of
show is.
to know what the show is. So,
Mhm.
but as far as like kind of the visuals and like the exploded views of like the all the tech that they were gonna use, phasers and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
it was awesome to see that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
What do you think?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I've watched it a bunch of times today.
Yeah.
I saw it post online yesterday, like afternoon while I was watching football. I was like like just flipping through Twitter, and
Yeah.
I saw the video, and I was like, I'm not watching that.
Yeah.
And I I avoided it. I saw it for the first time in the episode, and I'm glad
Yeah.
that I saw it that way. But I agree with you. Like the handcrafted element of it, the it's very artistic. Like
Yeah.
it's really well done,
Mhm.
and it's different. It's like a new spin on it. It's got a lot of the elements of like the ship flying around. Like the ship's very present in the sequence,
Mhm.
but it's not like a rehash of like the Voyager opening credits with the ship just kind of flying through
Yeah.
space. Like it's a unique kind of different spin on that idea. Uh, and same thing with Deep Space Nine's clearly like the same thing. It's just kind of different shots of the space station, and I think it would have been a mistake to try to replicate that and just do that simple thing again. And I like that, kind of like Enterprise, they did something fresh and new.
Mhm.
And I love the music. I like the theme. I think it. I've heard some people say, and I kind of agree. The first time I heard it, I heard it a couple weeks ago when they posted that I didn't avoid like I should have.
Yeah.
But the first time I heard it, I wasn't sure I heard like a real theme, like a memorable theme to like hum, like a lot of the other shows have. But the more I've heard it, the more that's kind of come. I can hum the theme along with it at
Mhm.
this point. So, and I like it a lot. It's grown on me a good bit in the last couple of weeks, and seeing it in the sequence yesterday and a couple times today has just kind of further established that as like, yeah, I like it. It's good. So, and yeah, Rob is pointing out that it's very similar to like a Bond
Yeah.
opening
Yeah.
credit sequence. It definitely reminds me of that for sure.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. What did you think of Sarek? Like the inclusion of Sarek in the story? Do you think he was?
It seemed a little bit too forced, and that's kind of the one of the actions that I don't agree with when Burnham's character just leaves the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah.
something's hard, something's happened. I gotta call my dad or
Yeah.
or something. It's just like, no, 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 no.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't. I mean, I don't mind him being in the show, and I don't mind the flashbacks and all that stuff, but
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't like the hologram call and stuff very
Yeah.
much.
Me neither. Yeah. That's something that if I'm gonna be, some of the stuff that didn't quite work for me was that, like, that sequence. I definitely had the same reaction. I don't know that it reflects that well in the character for her to run off the bridge and call daddy
Yeah,
in the middle of a crisis.
yeah.
Uh, so I get what she was going for. Like, she was looking for ideas, I guess. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I don't think it dramatically does many favors for her as a character. Like, in the first episode, to kind of see her have to do that. I like James Frain. I think he's good. I think he's well cast. I think he can pull off Sarek.
Hmm.
But yeah, I some of his inclusion, I liked him in the flashback scenes more than I liked the hail,
Yeah.
the conversation in real time, and a couple of the things. I have a specific one that I want to ask you about, but kind of the secondary kind of question I have is this notion of um, the scene with Burnham in the brig. Her conversation with Sarek. um, First off, do you think that was real? Do you think that was Sarek communicating with her through some sort of katra left behind in her head, or
Um,
do you think it was Burnham kind of meditating and creating a vision of
I didn't know what to
Sarek in her head?
think because we had never
Me
seen that
neither.
before in Trek.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so it's tough to. It was tough for me to
Mm-hmm.
buy. I'm not sold on it quite yet. I
Yeah.
don't know if we're gonna be able to see it ever again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. What do you?
It's
What was your
something.
take on it?
My initial take was confusion and, like, I don't know how that works. Like, in my head initially, I was like, well, you know, if you can do that, you know, Tuvok out in the Delta Quadrant, why isn't he, like, communicating with his family through some sort of, you know, mind meld, long range mind meld thing? But then I was thinking about it today, and I know in lots of Trek, in TOS and in Voyager with Tuvok, they kind of do a pretty good job of selling the fact that the mind meld is a really intimate act. Like, I don't know that, and Sarek says in Unification that he never, or Spock says in Unification that he never mind melded with um, Spock before. That Spock never mind melded with Sarek. So I don't know that it's a safe assumption to make that, you know, every Vulcan mind melds with their kids and, like, everybody they come
Yeah.
into contact with. That it's a very intimate kind of act. Jordan's saying that we've seen Vulcans have telepathy over great distances. For example, the loss of the USS Intrepid in TOS, and the Paul Tripp connection. That's what I was thinking of, Jordan. In season 4, after they've had their fling kind of established when they're separated, they have some sort of weird telepathic connection that is definitely explored in those couple episodes. So they have dabbled in it before, in some small capacity, but yeah, I don't know. Like,
I'd
I
wonder if it was just like they're trying to make it work for the story.
yeah.
Like I don't know. I'm not saying that's the case, but I wonder if that's why. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
we gotta somehow get Sarek back in and or something. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I I'm not opposed to it. It's one of those things that, like, the Star Trek nerd in me would like some more explanation. Like, I I, I can believe that, like, Tuvok never mind melded with his children back in the Alpha Quadrant before he left, but I don't know that I believe that Tuvok never mind melded with his wife in the Alpha Quadrant before he left at any point. And if that's what you do, if you mind meld and you leave some part of yourself, which they have said, you know, when you mind meld with somebody, some part of yourself kind of transmits to the other person. Like,
Yeah.
Picard has some memories left over from his mind meld with Sarek in occasion. Like, there's a connection there. Um, and they do kind of make a point in the scene to say that it's like a great physical cost thing. So maybe Tuvok just doesn't know how to do it. Maybe he doesn't know how to reach out to his wife, or maybe it is too far of a distance. They can't connect that way. I don't know. It's Star Trek nerdy,
Yeah,
stuff
and
that
my
you get
my
stuck in the
nerdy
weeds
head's
in. But
trying to justify like, okay, maybe she had troubles with logic and keeping her emotions at bay. Maybe he melded with her so he could help or something like
yeah,
that. But
right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping, and I have a feeling that it's not the last we've seen of that. I think that'll be further explored. I think you'll see it in other instances in the season. Uh, and I believe that because I know Sarek is in it throughout the season, but Sarek is clearly not on the ship with them or anything. So there's, I'm sure we'll see flashbacks and stuff like that, but I think his involvement will largely be stuff like that as the season goes on. So I'm hoping that maybe we get a little more idea of like what the heck's going on there, just for my nerdy, self needs to understand everything that I can understand. But that was definitely like one of my two big questions coming out of it. Like I want to know more. The one, what I've been telling people is if I could change one thing, if I could do one thing a little differently, it's not the Klingons, it's not the mind meld thing, it's not anything. If there's one thing that I probably would do differently, it's I don't think I would use this idea of like holographic communication. I think it's really cool. I think
you think it's
I'm
just
sure
too early?
Yeah, like and I don't think my impression of it wasn't that it was like a hologram. It was some sort of a projection technology or something.
Yeah.
And it's certainly way more dramatically interesting, and it makes for a better scene than staring at a screen and having a Skype conversation like we're having right now. And I totally believe that the more realistic look at how these sorts of communications will take place in 250 years from now is less like what we're doing right now and more like what we saw on Discovery last night.
Yeah.
Where we can project each other kind of into settings. But it is that's what kind of jarred me more than anything, just because it is such a dramatic departure, and we see it in Deep Space Nine, and it's kind of framed as like this new technology that they're messing around with, and it doesn't stick around. So it's something that if I was the showrunner, I don't think I would have greenlit. I think I would have said, maybe we should not necessarily go there. I think it's going to invite a lot of controversy where it's not necessarily necessary. But I do get that. I was talking to my dad. I was surprised that my dad didn't have a problem with it, because he's an older guy. He's old school Trek
He's
fan.
old school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking, man, he's not gonna like this. But he said today that like his favorite kind of moment in the show was the Admiral standing on the bridge of the Shenzhou, and when the Klingon ship kind of rams the Europa, and you see the Admiral like shaking on the bridge, and like what the hell's going on, trying to figure out, like he was like totally like blown away by that. Like that whole moment like totally blew him away. That you were like, he was like, how many times in Star Trek have you seen like some other ship in the view screen kind of blow up in the distance? And in this moment, you kind of got to see it happen, like through the eyes of somebody on that ship. And it's an admiral that you've like come to kind of know a little bit. He's been in other scenes. Like he totally responded to that, and he was like totally on board with the holographic communication. So that blew me away. I was like, hey, if there are enough people out there like him, maybe this won't be an issue. People will be like, hey, cool, no problem. But as I was sitting there, I was like, that's the one thing maybe I would have done differently. But I'm sure I'll get used to it. I'm sure I've already kind of like, it is what it is. It's here, no problem.
Yeah.
I'll reason some way in my head why maybe it takes too much power, somebody said that I was talking to, and ships kind of stop using it. But yeah, it's did it bother you when you were watching it initially? Like, did it enter into your head at all? Were you like, what is this?
Yeah, because I was like, well, I don't know. I thought it was a little bit too early just for a timeline, but I'm like, I mean, to me, on the view screen, it would have been cheaper to do than the hologram.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I guess they have money to blow a hologram.
Yeah,
Let's do
exactly.
all the hologram money. Everyone's a hologram. So I was like, okay, I'm down with it, I guess.
Yeah. Honestly, the first thing that like popped into my head when I saw it was, in Voyager, they make such a big deal out of like they can't project the Doctor into different spaces early on. Like they're trying to mess around with it, and it's very difficult to do.
Yeah.
And so for me, I see this and I'm like, well, why is it so difficult to do? Like
Yeah. When you
if
can
you
do
could
it on
do
the
this so
bridge.
easily,
And
yeah, like
the
just project
Shinzo
it.
was like an old ship to begin with too.
Yeah.
So I was
Hmm.
like, I don't know, but it was just
Hmm.
it was a little bit fishy to me, and I get your point there for sure.
Yeah. That was kind of the one thing that, and I knew it was coming. I kind of knew because I'd seen it in interviews. They were saying that they were using this, that the Skype call and the view screen is going to kind of be a thing of the past. You're not going to quite see that as often,
Hmm.
which I get. Like I do get it. It's antiquated. It's unlikely to be our best form of communication
Yeah.
in 200 years because it's our best form of communication now. We can do it very easily right now. So I get it. And it is cool. It's a cool visual thing, and I agree with my dad what he was saying that that was a neat moment. That was
Hmm.
like that made that moment more impactful to kind of see somebody on the bridge of that ship, watching them figure out that he's done.
Yeah.
And there it was. It's more dramatically satisfying for sure. So I get it, but it's
Hmm.
certainly it was a bold choice, and that's the Klingons don't give me pause at all. Like all the other stuff that gives people headaches and gives some people the inability to embrace the show. This doesn't even remotely approach that. It's a question, and it's a challenge. Like how can I make this work in my
Hmm.
head?
Yeah.
More than a what the heck are they doing kind of thing. Um, and like it definitely boosted my confidence with it when I heard my dad kind of say that because I was so convinced. I was convinced that he was going to like make a big deal about that, and he
Yeah.
didn't. And in fact, he liked it. So that gave me kind of clearance to be like, hey, it's not a big deal. We're not going to like
Yeah.
alienate people over something like this.
Yeah.
So yeah. What else? I had all kinds of things I wanted to ask you, and I think we've covered a lot of them, kind of just
Yeah.
by having a rough conversation about everything.
Jordan's
Um,
wondering about Sarek's hologram sitting down on the desk. Um, but Rob kind of says that they can interact with the environment that they're being projected. Um, yeah, I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. Like to me, that's what saves it in my head. The way that I can wrap my head around it is that it's not really a hologram. It's more of like just it's a plain old projection. Like it's not. Well, it is. It's a projection. It's not a creation. It's not a. The Doctor is a subroutine. He's a program in a
Yeah.
computer that is
Yeah.
that is projected into an environment to function as a person as a working tool
Hmm.
initially, but becomes a person. So it's a different thing for sure. It's this is a projection. It's not a holographic creation.
Hmm.
So I can reason that in my head that they're not one and the same. They're not equal.
No. Yeah.
They're different issues.
Yeah.
Um, but what Rob's saying there and what kind of Jordan's pointing out does kind of point it more in the direction of it's some sort of a hologram that's kind of active in the environment and can touch things and interact. So yeah, it's an interesting dramatic device, and I definitely, like I said, I keep saying it creates better scenes. It makes for better scenes to have the actors in the same space. That scene, as much as I have an issue with how it comes about and where it takes place in the story, Burnham and Sarah kind of talking um, about the crisis at hand. It's an infinitely better scene because they're in the same space and they're interacting, as opposed to Burnham sitting at a desk and staring at a computer screen with
Yeah.
talking to Sarah. Um, so yeah, Rob's asking why kill off Ensign Connor, and I was also talking about the big elephant in the room, which is Captain Georgiou's death.
Oh yeah.
Why is Michelle Yeoh gone so early? I'm not convinced that Michelle. I'm convinced that Michelle Yeoh was really dead. Which he asked, do we think she's dead? I think she's dead, but I don't think we've seen the last of her. I know with pretty certain just evidence from seeing people talking on Twitter that she has been filming, at least off and on, like beyond when these two episodes were filmed back in the winter. So I imagine there are some sort of flashbacks that keep her involved in some way.
I
And
I knew her days were numbered when on the title sequence it said
yeah,
special guest.
I know. Yeah,
So guest implies that
you're not
it's
sticking
not
around.
permanent. So I was like, all right, definitely
Hmm.
dying. When I first saw, it, I was like, she's gone.
And she's gone.
Yeah.
Not long for the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how much we'll see her. I don't know how active she'll be. I don't know how many. I hope it's not too many flashbacks. I don't want to get bogged down in flashback city here. Um, but I will say this: we haven't talked about her specifically. I think she's awesome. Captain Georgiou is awesome. I think Michelle Yeoh is great. I love that she speaks with an accent. Like it's. I think it makes her unique and distinctive. And
At the same time, though, I see like a Picard-esque in there.
sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think they were going for like the female version, 23rd century version of Picard.
Yeah.
Her whole like diplomat demeanor. Yeah, for sure. Like they were definitely going for a Picard, like the perfect captain. Definitely right there. You're 100% right.
Yeah, because when she was just trying to be more diplomatic than like guns blazing and stuff, I just was like, yeah, I feel like this is Picard-esque.
Yeah,
so.
For sure. Yeah, but I believe that, I can buy that. Like they kind of play up that she's an excellent captain. She's kind of well known, and she's a Starfleet captain, and she's been out there on a ship for 7 years, and she's got a history that they kind of allude to. So, I can buy that. Maybe Georgiou is one of Picard's heroes. Maybe Picard, studied her in the academy and kind of wants, that's one of the people he models himself after. I can buy that, and I think that makes it kind of interesting and cool. And I think the reason she is that way is I think we're going to get a very different captain in Lorca, played by Jason Isaacs. I think there's going to be a big juxtaposition of the two captains that are kind of present in the show. So, yeah, I think they went to two extremes there. That's a guess. We haven't seen Captain Lorca other than some clips and trailers, but based on the interviews that Jason Isaacs has given and stuff we've kind of been hinted at, I think Lorca is going to be a little more rough edged than Georgiou was. So,
yeah,
I think the distinction will be there. But I think the same thing with Ensign Connor, Rob. I think you'll maybe see a little more of him through some sort of flashback structure that I'm sure we'll get. I think the first two episodes of the show, especially episode 2, I think if memory serves, it's a little more active in episode 2. But the show has already kind of established that flashbacks is part of its language. It's very, very present in the first 2 episodes, and I think it's going to kind of remain that way. I think it's going to be very fluid, this show. It's going to not be traditional and, very linear. It's not going to be start in A and end in B and not really bounce around much. This is going to be more time jumpy. You're going to get flashbacks and time jumps. I think we're going to get a time jump next week, like a 6 months later kind of deal, a year later, however long it's going to be, in a way that a lot of previous Trek shows haven't really done. We don't get much of that in Star Trek. I mean, if you really think about it, how often do we get like legitimate flashbacks in Star Trek? Really flashing back to like characters' backstories. Usually it's in the form of like tapestry, like some kind of weird time travel cue kind of thing. If you're going to go back to somebody's past, I think this is going to be a little more modern TV-esque.
Yeah, because they have 7 years to flash back to.
Yeah,
they've been with each other for 7 years, so
exactly.
Like I'm not surprised that some of the cast that had been killed off in the first episode is still filming, but.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to see. I think Burnham struggling with things that are going to happen over the next 13 episodes on the Discovery is going to be thinking back to her time on Vulcan with Sarek. She's going to be thinking back to her time on the Shenzhou with Georgiou. I think they kind of established that Georgiou is kind of her surrogate mother. Sarek is her surrogate father.
That's what I got out of it.
Yeah. They're her parents.
Yeah.
And, so I think we're going to get a lot of that. I think we're going to get a lot of context through her experiences with both of those people in the form of flashbacks. So, yeah, Rob's saying it's going to be like the devil and the angel on her shoulders.
Yeah.
Georgiou and Lorca. I agree. I think that's where they're going, and I think that's an interesting way to go. It's going to be like Platoon for those of you who've seen that. The young Charlie Sheen character who's got the two sergeants in the military. Two different kinds of guys. Good guy and the kind of rough dead guy, and it's up to younger character to balance and figure out the way to make good decisions and you know be themselves while being influenced by these two people. I think that's kind of the vibe that we're going to get with this season, at least, which is cool. It's very different, and we kind of knew coming into this that the theme of this is that it's a different kind of show. This Discovery, it's not Trek as usual. It's going to explore different things and have a different structure, and I think that's good. I kind of keep going back to this in other shows, but that we've had that. This was not going to succeed as just like a retread. Put a crew on a ship and do it in the '90s style, and off they go, and episodic. And I don't know how that would go. I don't think that would be good for the health of the franchise to kind of just dive back into old territory.
Yeah.
I think it's got to push forward and do different new stuff to stay around and stay relevant. And I think that's what we're getting here. And like I had this exchange with a guy, and I kind of told you about it, Dan, with the guy the night before, Saturday night. I don't know what made me do it, but he said something. He was tweeting back and forth with Ted Sullivan. Ted Sullivan tweeted something, and this guy responded and kind of attacked him a little bit. He was an anti-Discovery kind of guy. He wasn't looking forward to it. He was not happy with the concept of the show, not happy that CBS All Access was a thing. And he said something along the lines of, "You don't know Star Trek," just kind of attacking Ted Sullivan. And he said something along the lines of trying to keep an open mind and giving the show a chance. And I was reading this timeline, and I kind of quoted something he said back to him that was quite the opposite of having an open mind and looking forward to the show and wanting to give it a chance. I kind of called him on it, and we had this exchange that wasn't very nice at first. But I usually don't like fight with people on Twitter.
Yeah.
It was very brief. It was like 2 or 3 exchanges that were not necessarily nice, but it ended up being nice. We ended up kind of making up and like talking about we have more in common than not. And I told him, I hope you enjoy the show. I hope it's pleasantly surprised to you. I hope it's a pleasant surprise. And
did you talk to him later?
I didn't talk to him, but I saw him say that he was pleasantly surprised and he really liked it. And that CBS wins, he's going to pay the money. So that was encouraging to me to see somebody who was so vehemently against it that he was like tweeting the people that were writing the show and was like attacking them. And he I hope listened to me. We had a nice conversation by the end of it. Like, it wasn't private or anything. You can go back and look for it on Twitter. You can see the exchange. And I kind of ended it by talking about, he kind of made a point. He was talking about a lot of people have concerns about Discovery because of all the stuff we've kind of talked about, the different look and everything. And I said, a lot of people had concerns about TNG in 1987, and some of them loved it right away. Some of them took years to warm up to it, and some of them never did. But and the same exact thing is going to happen here. Yeah. Some people are going to love it right away. Some are going to warm to it in a few years or in a year or whatever. And some people are going to drop off and never be into it. And it's just not going to be their thing. And that's the way that every other show has gone. TNG is the most extreme example, and Discovery is similar because of the big gap, 12 years of nothing, and social media, and just more stakes to it. So there's more going on that's really got people on edge, and everything's pronounced. This back and forth that people are having about it. And I'm hoping that he kind of listened to what we were talking about, and maybe that's why he gave it a little bit of an open mind. I'm not trying to take credit for it, but I'm hoping that more people had the exact same experience he did. That maybe it wasn't quite what he thought it was going to be, and it pleasantly surprised him. That was the most encouraging endorsement that I saw for the show. Reading people, as much as I love Enterprise Extra and Heather, people like that on Twitter who I love and follow closely, seeing them praise it doesn't surprise me. It makes me feel good that they love it and that I have these cool people to talk about it with and share ideas with. But what really got me excited was seeing somebody who was so anti and so like writing it off and angry about it before it came, and turn around and say, "Man, I actually loved it." That's great to see. So it kind of gives me hope that the show's gonna have legs and that it might win some people over in time.
We got to change your title to Bill, the Enterprise, Discover, and CBS spokesman.
Yeah. Yep. I'll take it.
Yeah.
The salesman and the
Yeah.
apologist for
Yeah.
things that, yeah, are very divisive for sure. Um,
But um,
yeah.
John Jones makes a great point. He said Discovery has to be its own show, and
Yeah.
that's well put. It has to step out of. I know it's tough to step out of the 50-year kind of shadow, but I think they kind of have, and I think it's going to go in a good direction.
Yeah, me too. Agreed. Any other thoughts? What did you think of After Trek?
It was okay.
I'm
It
the
was
same way.
okay.
I
I wouldn't mind if it wasn't there,
yeah,
but it's just something to watch after, I
yeah.
guess.
I'm sure what I'll end up doing is it's Star Trek stuff, so I'm sure I'll watch it. But
Yeah.
like, it'll be tempting to kind of skip through it and look for the clips of like the next episode.
Yep, exactly.
An interview that looks interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
It seems a little
Maybe
cheesy with the host and like laughter and so
yeah, I can do without the laugh track.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought laugh tracks were kind of a thing of the past.
Yeah.
And nothing dates a show quite like a laugh track to me. Like,
Yeah.
I just can't get down with them. Yeah, I could, and not without like passing too much judgment too soon. Maybe I could do it with a different host. I don't know Matt Mira at all. Evidently, he's got a little bit of a following. I don't know what he's done. I know he's on. I think he's on a YouTube channel. I think he might have a podcast out there somewhere that I haven't listened to. And
Is
maybe
he
I'll
a
warm
Trek
to him.
fan?
Yeah, he definitely is. For sure. He's a Star Trek person. But I would have liked to have seen Scott Manskin grate on my nerves a little bit because he's so energetic. But he's very knowledgeable and got a recognizable face. People know who he is.
Yeah.
Somebody like that, I think, would have made a good host. But yeah, I don't know. I'll be interested to see. Like, I'm excited that they're going to have an avenue to have like the cast pop on and like have raw reactions to the show as it happens. Like previous Trek shows, we never really got that. You never heard from the cast or the producers other than like a magazine article every once in a while through like the official Star Trek magazine. That's how you got like your raw like reaction from people working on the show about the episode you just saw, and that would happen like sometimes 3-4 months later. So I'm excited that we get some kind of reaction from the people behind it as it kind of happens. I could do with maybe a half hour instead of an hour and a little more like tight, a little more refined and focused. But yeah, just a curious aside. Like, see what you thought of it. What else? Did anything else stand out to you? Anything that we didn't hit? Just like as a raw conversation about it?
I don't think so. I'm curious what's gonna happen. There's just so many questions got answered, but even more probably we're asking them now. So
yeah,
it's tough to
absolutely.
like what like the desert planet. What's going on there?
I don't think we'll see that again. I think that was just that was actually, and it surprised me. Like when I was talking to my dad about it, that was the thing that he was less big on, and I thought that was going to be something he was going to love. Like they're on an away mission, the walking the Delta. Like he found it, he liked it, he thought it was cute, but he kind of found it like a little unnecessary, I guess, like expository. Like
yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I was like, why is there creatures following them and that one weird alien? I don't know. I didn't know.
I got the impression watching it that it was a sequence that was much maybe longer on the page, and they tried to like cut it as much as they could to condense it to fit into a prologue. And I think they just had this idea that like having them walk the Delta and the ship come down and beam them up and fly away, like they saw that as like, man, this is the perfect teaser for Star Trek being back. Have the music playing and it is like, it's cool. It definitely gave me the chills when I was watching it for the first time. Like I thought it was neat. But it's definitely it has no purpose in the episode. It's just like it's there to establish their relationship, Burnham and Georgiou, and talk about it establishes that they've been together for 7 years, and she's kind of on the brink of maybe becoming a captain because their mission's kind of coming to an end, I guess. And yeah, it's there to be expository and a setup, I think. But
okay,
that's my guess. I assume. But it does. It kind of leads you to think when you're watching. You're like, what are these aliens doing? They kind of play it like they're following them. But when I went back and watched it again, I kind of get the impression that they were kind of just coming to get the water that they loosened up, like not necessarily following them. Like they left and all the aliens came and got the water. So it a little confusing in the way it's edited and kind of rushed. Yeah. So definitely got the impression that it was longer and cut the length of the teaser.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think I have anything else like really to say other than I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah.
And I think, they definitely made a point to say, and I said it earlier, that this is like a prologue, these first 2 episodes. And the next one is kind of like their proper pilot for the show that we're going to get. So, I think episode 3 is going to be a big one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Any last thoughts? Anything before we tie it up?
No, I think we can definitely sign it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into like maybe after episode 3 because I think that'll be like the beginning of the ongoing story.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be fun to like predict a little bit about like what's coming. I have no idea what's coming because we don't even know what the show is yet.
Yeah.
But I would definitely, in future weeks when we're talking about this, I'll be curious to like guess about where it might be going and stuff like that. But I don't think there's really much to guess right now, other than what we kind of know. She's in trouble and she's going to wind up there, and stuff's going to happen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's been our first kind of overview of episode 1 and 2 of Star Trek Discovery. You guys know the drill. Discussion does not have to stop here. Definitely come over to Twitter. That's a hot spot for both of us. Look out for more TrekLive content this week, and then going into this weekend. We'll let you guys know the schedule for next weekend.
Yeah.
Figure something out. Yeah.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Yeah.
Guys who stopped in, Rob, Jordan. I know it's late for Rob, at least. But Jordan and John, appreciate you guys stopping by.
Yeah.
Sharing your thoughts.
Yep.
Definitely hit us up on Twitter.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, if you guys are watching this after the fact, definitely like, comment, subscribe. We'll do our best to keep the conversation going. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks, guys.
Later. Thanks for coming.
Remain Klingon.